I think if you were doing a film, and in the short term, you needed a sparky, abrasive relationship, it might be just a good idea to put two people together for 6 months and see what happens. If you were intending to keep people together for 4 years, 4.5 years, it was stupid.
Martin and I always had a bit of a spark because we weren't quite the same animal. But, you know, it's good for the show, not necessarily the happiest of times for actors.
Well, the critics hated it, of course, because it was ever so popular. I mean, the public loved it.
I think what was good about The Professionals was that it was politically incorrect all the way through.
There aren't any series like that anymore. People just won't put up with that.
I remember poor old Lou being very nervous about the scene where we were hidden behind the car.
It was a very stressful thing for me because another actor had been shooting on it for over a week, and so all the crew was sort of watching me to see the new guy on the block, you know, how's he going to do?
We actually had committed to Anthony Andrews and Martin Shaw. And then suddenly, after it might have been 3 days, I got this trepidation about the fact that it wasn't working as I'd imagined it. And then we went back to the drawing board, as it were, and tested again, and tested Lewis Collins.
And this particular shot, which was the opening scene, which was me retrieving a grenade from the brassiere, or the cleavage rather, of Pamela Stevenson. So not only am I nervous, being the first take of the very first day, but I have to do this. Then I have to get this grenade, and all in one take, throw it into this bin, you know, which was about 25 feet away. This actor did it on take 2. And I took about 7 takes, but I seemed to pass the test and carried on with the series.
You did well.
We met for the first time on the Avengers.
Couldn't have done it without you.
I'm the best ordnance man outside of anyone's army.
Which was the same stable as the Professionals Mark I Productions.
Hey, we should work together again. We're a good team.
That was the first time I'd met him, yes, and we didn't particularly get on. We didn't have much interaction anyway in that episode. But when we did, it was fairly abrasive.
Oh, I've never noticed that before. What's that? Streak of yellow down your back.
He was my senior, and still is by 1 year, sorry, Martin. And, you know, so I always had sort of a junior admiration of his abilities, and still do.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll leave you to wallow in your own self-pity. I'll handle it myself.
Since when did you ever handle anything on your own?
Yeah, well, since when did you?
3 inches? 4.
First of all, there was friction because they're two entirely different actors. Martin is from the theatre, as I said. He's a professional actor and had been for a long time. Lewis wasn't.
When we brought in Lewis, who really hadn't been acting that long and had been a drummer in the Mojos and so on, I think Martin didn't have the respect for him initially.
Everyone thinks, you see, I was walking down the pavement one day and the producer went, where's Bodie? Right, we'll have him now, see? But no, I went through years and years of, you know, the classical, you know, you name it.
You were in Belfast, weren't you?
Yep. But if you think you're going to draw me in on that one, forget it.
The background was that Bodie had been in the SAS and that Doyle had come through the police force and through the special branch and so on. But that wasn't a character, that was the background.
Everything okay?
Yeah, but how come the bionic golly gets all the best bits?
Have you got a very large cat up there?
What?
He was always the one that was more caring, and I was more a bull in a china shop.
Right, drop everything!
Which, you know, didn't show off my finer points, I felt.
Everything! Including your pants!
CI5, Criminal Intelligence, the Action Squad, the Big A, the Squad.
The CI5 is sort of peculiar constructed organisation that's somehow between the special branch and MI5. We don't, it doesn't really get pinned down, but it's involved with heavy-duty of criminals and terrorists.
It's curious, really, because I invented it, but during the Iranian embassy siege, some people there were saying down with CI5, so it had kind of entered into the public parlance.
Shake him down, crush him before they even start to grow, like an alley fight. And that's what this is, an alley fight.
We now see the MI5 being without a role, with a sort of collapse of the evil empire. And they've scurried in to providing their services for the police in terms of professional crime, and they're pitching them, and indeed Major and the Tory government have accepted this.
Enjoy the lecture?
Oh, we always do, sir.
But what, Bodie?
Oh, a bit heavy, sir. Fascist overtones.
At the time, I always thought that the criminals were getting the better of the deal in many ways, and it's coming out now. I mean, one doesn't have to be fascist to have that attitude. You just have to have a lot of common sense, really. I think that a lot of people would welcome the CI5 organisation, which was not so hidebound by red tape. It did the job, it caught the villain, it stopped the person from murdering it, it defused the bomb without having to get a search warrant and things like that, which are probably indefensible, but made for damn good entertainment.
You dumb crud! What took you so long?
You look terrible.
That's better. You feel better now, don't you?
I said to Lou, look, you probably know I didn't want you to do this. And I was not in favour of it. And I absolutely fought against it. And I've changed my mind, and I think you're really great in the part. And can we be friends? And I think he still thought I was an arsehole for a while.
What are you two, some kind of music hall act?
Whatever we are, you made us.
Ta-da!
I found that early on they got into trouble with the scripts, and I suddenly had to write about 9. I didn't want to write 9. I only wanted to write 2 or 3, get the thing on the road, and then step back.
I mean, he has to be credited for the original idea, and his storylines were sensational. But I didn't like his dialogue.
Just consider us the finger in the dike men.
Yeah, we're CI5. I'm Doyle. He's Bodie.
Permission to be admiringly insolent, sir. You're a brave old bastard.
Permission denied. Anyway, it's inaccurate. I'm not brave.
As to off the printed page, yes, it was exactly as I'd conceived it, and they played everything as written.
Well, a lot of the rewriting was Martin and I in a car. We spent a lot of time sitting in cars, and we used to knock it around quite a lot.
What? Oh, I was just thinking, Cowley and a woman.
Yeah. He'd kick the door down, throw her on the bed,
And frisk her.
Feedback would come from the rushes. Hey, those car scenes, absolutely wonderful. More of that, boys. And we thought, are they really this stupid? Don't they know that this is not the script that was being given us? You know, we're making this up.
I mean, he's a bit aggressive, and he would be attractive, wouldn't he?
Not now.
No, I mean, the only changes that were made were sometimes they'd say, well, I'd rather use this word instead of that word. Or the changes that can only happen when you're on location, where he says, go through that door, and there isn't a door. So you have to change it to get up that ladder, or that can be amended in cahoots with the director.
Hardly ever saw Brian, actually. He was always out choosing a new Ferrari. But anyway, that was better. I shouldn't speak like that. I hardly ever saw Brian. He was busy writing, presumably.
Cowley.
There's a bomb in your office. You've got 30 seconds.
He'll be slogging away behind his desk. Steam pour.
James Bond had been very successful, and rightly so, but it had its own particular niche, which was, we are sexy and we are violent, but we don't really mean it. You know, it was all very tongue-in-cheek, and I thought, well, that's been done. Why bother to do it again?
Bodie.
It's a nice clean finish.
Yeah, bloody Jerry Builders.
We didn't do anything tongue-in-cheek. We tried to inject humour into it, which I think is slightly different.
Isn't this the private dining room? This isn't the private dining room.
What? I just got me spotted dick.
But, I mean, they had to believe in what they were doing. If they didn't believe in the story, then the audience would.
What was that? I think we just lost our drawers.
Everyone was out there just to be doing it as honestly and as accurately as we could, given that it was a fantasy.
You volunteered because you wanted it.
Well, I wasn't press ganged into it, if that's what you mean.
It was continual, constant frustration.
Better than working on a lathe. Come on, Doyle, don't let them beat you.
I mean, we had researched a bit. Both actors, you want to research, you want to do it properly. So we'd found out how these people would behave. We'd had a day's training with an SAS regimental weapons instructor.
You blew it again! Yeah, what sort of position's that to come from?
My theory about research is I always do it after I've written the script and then change the script, because if the research is too detailed, I mean, most episodes of almost anything are directed at a lay audience, and if you confuse them with too much technicality, they're going to get bored.
And so when we were asked to kick a door down and stand framed in the doorway with a light behind us and just stand in the doorway like this, we would say, no, come on, please. I mean, you're an easy target in the doorway. Just get cut off at the knees. Can we do it properly? No, nobody will know, they said.
Here was a very serious actor. Subsequently, he's proved this time and again. And he obviously was not so happy with the script. He thought it was as silly as some of us watching thought it.
Just a job. Yeah, what a job.
Without, I hope, being too pretentious, an actor is not a puppet. An actor is somebody who creates. And it's very hard to try and create with somebody's fist down your throat and your arm up your back.
If you've got a long-running series, you want your artists to be happy and also welcome their input, and they welcome being welcomed, as it were.
In fact, I was told that if I turned up on the set wearing jeans, I would be sent home.
I mean, Martin settled on a hairstyle which I didn't think was great.
Afternoon, ladies. Was this golly annoying you?
It seems astonishing now, but then it was quite a daring thing to do. And long hair was in, and I turned up wearing a leather jacket and a T-shirt and a pair of jeans and said, this is it.
Yeah. Disgrace to the uniform, right?
And he now says he regards himself as a bionic gollywog. Well, the gollywog aspect was something he dreamed up.
What I need now is a wig.
So you didn't nick the hairdo from anyone else?
No, it was completely my idea.
It's a terrible confession, isn't it?
I'm afraid so, yes.
Sorry.
I think he thought that he was looking too close to Lewis, and yet actually, I mean, that was the sort of actor's priority, I think, because he didn't look a bit like Lewis.
I ended up with the jackets and trousers. I was the tailor's dummy, and he was the cool guy. That's the way it goes.
I resign!
You can't.
I wrote my letter of resignation 6 weeks into the filming of the first episode and said, I'm unhappy, this is not working, this is not me, and you will let me go, won't you? And they said, are you out of your mind?
Doing my job in this chaos. Give me one good reason.
You have a contract.
You can't just keep moving the goalposts. This is an organisation which thousands of people depend on for their living upon.
Those people want you well again, doing your job.
I had thought that if a person was unwilling to work, that you couldn't, as it was an artistic endeavour, I thought, force people to do so. But of course they could. They were entitled to, and they did.
Well, you care. That's pretty rare these days.
Yeah, it's also pretty stupid in my job.
And I think what happens, and I know it happens with other actors I've worked with on other series, is that they're in a successful series, and then they go to the Salisbury or some little pub or the Green Room, and they meet other actors who then say, oh, you're doing that television crap, and you find they're carrying a spear at the lyric, and I think there's that conflict.
Bodie. So help me, Bodie, if you finish that neck lock, I'll shoot you dead.
Howley was a big bad boss, which was hard for Gordon. I think it was probably his most testing acting role, actually, because he's such a sweet, was such a sweet man.
If I had killed him, would you have pulled the trigger?
What do you think?
His portrayal had a kind of warmth behind the eyes, even though he's being tough, you know.
What do you reckon?
I wasn't really surprised that Gordon Jackson took the part, because he obviously wanted to show there were other things in his repertoire, from sort of constipated Scottish butler in Upstairs, Downstairs. But I didn't think that it was quite him.
Yes, I might just do that. All right, carry on. I'm going to hoist you with your own petard, Mr. Sutton. I'm going to turn you into an addict. A crash course in addiction, because we have access to the purest stuff. A craving, crawling, do-anything-for-money junkie.
Well, I thought it worked extremely well, because he went against the grain on that. And that, to me, comes across as far more realistic. Because the last thing you put out in the field is someone who looks like what they are.
Gordon was one of the most delightful and well-balanced and kindest people I've ever met in my life. And he had none of these pressures or strains. And he said, "Oh, dear boy, don't worry, just say it. It doesn't matter, just say it. And that's what he did.
Whenever I see you, I wish I had sore eyes.
What?
Well, you'd be a sight for them, wouldn't you?
I've been half expecting you.
He was such a good actor in that I don't think he ever complained about anything once.
It's a woman. We'll go through the files. No. The face. See the face.
No.
Yes.
See that blonde piece? Yeah, I could have fixed it. Sexual politics. You know, this equality business doesn't do much for what the Spanish call cojones.
You're opening a can there for me. I mean, the sexist business. You know, those women, you know, that, hey, come on, I'm equal with you. Oh, you're not a man. You know, it's, what?
They didn't even bring me any grapes. Ah, all those pips, mate. You know, very messy in bed. Hey. Hands off. She's mine. She goes with the tablet.
And that's frozen in time now. I mean, whatever it was right for the time. It's okay to look back and say, but, you know, they shouldn't have done this and that. But I think everything goes in cycles. I mean, it'll all be fashion again to be a real man once again somewhere down the road, you know.
I mean, we dealt with racism and all the other isms, but we dealt with them in a different way because we were a different series.
Nigger, now you're the same colour as that wife of yours. And you're the same colour as him.
Well, the big taboo one, of course, was when we did Klansman. I wasn't a fan of that particular show because my character was just, you know, written as he was definitely racialist.
That's overreacting a bit, isn't it? I mean, after all they did was plant a cross in a spade's garden.
He never expressed it to me. But then again, you know, these were made in the 70s, and people's attitudes weren't quite the same then as they are now. It's 20 years on almost.
And there were some heated words over that. Eventually, the show it was axed.
Strange, really, because it's since shown all over the world, and it's been seen on cable and all sorts of places. And that episode is always shown. We've never had it. I can't think we've ever had one letter of complaint about it.
You've done well. Cheers.
We weren't in the business of being controversial in a social conscience way. We were action and trying to get away with as much violence, I suppose, as we could.
Come on, do yourself a favour, I'll break your arm.
There'll be a very strong reaction to it. Probably gone quite late at night, I suspect now. People's attitude to violence has changed. People's aversion to guns, their abhorrence of weapons and violence, I think it wouldn't stand up for those reasons. All of the action in James Bond I can attribute really back to the professionals. Everything I learned from the professionals is up there on the screen in Bond. And it does seem incredible to me now that some of the stunts they pulled, they did themselves. Martin Shaw was always doing his own stuff and did it very well, as did Lewis.
They would do the things that the ramrod, the stunt boss, would say it's okay for them to do this.
He only really was doubled when there was flying glass or something like that, and they didn't want it to be lacerated, but all the effort was ours, normally.
By today's standards, I doubt whether the insurance companies would allow them to do it. I mean, both of them were excellent drivers. They really sort of knew what they were doing.
Well, they do handbrake turns and so on, which I could teach you in 5 minutes anyway, but it looks very good. I mean, any responsible producer, and I hope I'm that, wouldn't allow his two leads to be exposed to too much danger. Lewis did break his ankle, but not doing the stunts. He did it illegally, doing a parachute jump in his own time.
Poor sod, he did this parachuting and broke his leg, and we had to stop shooting, and they were thoroughly annoyed with him about that.
I mean, first of all, I would have continued shooting because it's marvellous. There's so many stories you can write about an agent who's in a wheelchair, especially in it sort of heightens the series because you think, well, he's supposed to be doing dangerous things and getting his ankle broken, and here he is with it. I'd have taken that attack.
Finish it. Kill him.
Stories still hold up. In fact, some of the stories are as fresh as yesterday's news or even tomorrow's news. The action is still smashing. The boys look good. There's one terrible demerit: flares. If flares come back, the series will come back.
I think it'd be wonderful if it was back on the screen. I'd love to see it back on the screen.
Why hasn't it been shown on UK television since then?
I'm not really sure of the policy on that. I mean, I ask Martin.
I've never had problems or worries of any kind in 30 years as an actor, apart from those 4 years during that where everything was a struggle. And it's carried over into the whole question of repeats.
He's done more, seen more to make him want to throw it all in than almost anybody his age. And let's hope he's got more reasons to want to go on.
To rerun the series again, to have a repeat run, it required the signatures of the three leads, and that Martin refused to sign.
Negotiations as to reimbursement have never been successfully completed.
Police career good. Quite a few run-ins with your superiors.
There were reasons.
Good reasons, no doubt.
It personally cost me a lot of money. It prevented the series getting into profit until much later.
The issues in this trade are complex, tangled.
It then suited the newspapers to say that I had invoked an archaic and ancient left-wing Julian rule to take away from the public their favourite programme, which was complete and utter bullshit.
And worse, it cost his fellow artists a lot of money. And I thought that was the saddest thing of all.
You want justice. You want revenge.
Just want a reasonable reimbursement for what would be an enormous success for any network that tried to put it on. And since nobody's willing to talk to us, then it stays where it is in the vaults.
I'm surprised he didn't tell you to take that suit back.
He did. That's where we're going.
Next week, TV host and Elgin Marbles obsessive William G. Stewart presents a 15-to-1 special in which he argues for the marbles to be returned to Greece and invites viewers to phone in with their opinions. That's the Elgin Marbles, a 15-to-1 special, next Tuesday at 9 on Without Walls.